me this. How are we making a live action Dumbo if Dumbo's gonna be animated? It's happening. There's a live action Dumbo.
They're making live action Aladdin and Will Smith.
They're making live action Dumbo.
So, oh yeah. All right, for real. Hey people. Okay. I try to avoid that because in this small of a setting, it shouldn't be necessary. Your homework is due today. If I were you, I would turn it in right now so you don't forget. It's 712 through 716, written here on the chalkboard. I took down those posters because for the rest of the year, I'll just use this for announcements and stuff. So, if you don't have that ready to turn in, you're late, and I'm going to start updating stuff like fast. Because by quarter 4, you should be working well under our deadlines, and you should have these student behaviors kind of like down pat. So today you're going to see the Chapter 6 grades will actually go up. The assignment's been in there, but the grades haven't been in there. And this first set of Chapter 7 homework will go up in the math. So if you're getting yourself behind in quarter 4, put your foot on the gas, hammer down. If you weren't over on our side of the pod this morning, we were discussing, I'm also vamping, like wasting time so you can turn in your homework, so feel free to get that out and turn it in. We were talking about when your parents come to a yellow light, or your siblings, if they're driving right now, you have a choice to make. You either have to take your foot off the gas and brake, because you know the end is, like, the stoplight's gonna stop, or you put your foot on the gas because you're going through it. We want to put our foot on the gas. We want to hammer down. We want to finish strong. Okay? There's no coming to school and, like, checking out until, like, May. And I'll give it to you. Once we get to May, we're pretty chill around here. Because we've got travel and May term, but you got to make it through April. Okay, we got a month left.
That's not that long.
It's not. It will go by like this. Before you know it, we'll be crying on the last day of school, saying goodbye, taking our goofy picture out from us.
Thank you, Jesus.
I won't be crying.
So Ava, if on the last day of school you end up crying, I'm going to walk over to you and ask you why you're crying. How about that? That's my commitment to you. All right. So if we wanted to host a dance, if we want, what? I know, but now I've wasted enough time. That has nothing to do with math, though. We are in 7.1.8. We're going to focus up now. Sky, you ready to learn? I've ready to learn. Graph paper out. Header going on it. Today, we're learning about something that, fortunately, in 7th grade, you don't have to learn about the more complicated part. Because a question in your head might be simple interest. Well, what other kind is there? Complicated interest? Yeah. It's not called that, but there really are 2 different kinds of interest. Are we ready to learn? Because it doesn't look like it. There are 2 kinds of interest. Legitimately, the kind we're going to talk about today is called simple. Out in the world, we call it simple interest. The other kind, and you might jot this down just so you know it, is called compound interest. And depending on, like, your credit card or your home loan or whatever, depends on what type of interest you're paying. So, put your pencil down for a second. Let me break it down for you before we start doing math. Simple interest says, I'm going to borrow money. Let's say I borrow $20. So, I want to go buy a video game. I don't have enough money. I borrow money from Brendan. I'm going to pay interest, let's say 5 cents interest every day. Now that would be a certain percentage compared to the amount that I borrowed, but every day that I don't pay Brendan back, I owe him 5 more cents. Okay, that's simple interest. Every day is the same thing happening. Compound interest, after day 1, I now owe Brendan $20.05. Day 2, I will owe him more than 5 cents. More because the amount I owe him, $20.05, has changed. That's where it's complicated because we have to redo the math every single day. We're not doing that interest. Okay, so we're just doing simple. So let's say we want to host a dance and we don't have enough money. And the PTSA says, look, we'll loan you money, but we don't have lots of money, so we're going to have to charge you a little bit of interest. But still, it's better to take a loan from like the PTSA than it would be for the bank, or like to take it from the bank, because the bank is probably going to charge us more. So, problem 86, if you want to write that down, we are going to borrow $825. So let's go ahead and drop that down. We're going to borrow or loan of $825 with a simple interest rate of 2%. So the important stuff we should have written down is a loan of $825. Bless you. And that this is problem 86.
Are we on 86?
Yes, sir.
We only have 2 more lessons to go through. Then we're done.
Hey, our test is Friday, by the way. Our Chapter 7 test, we have to keep moving quickly. I'm going to try to write it so it only takes us one day. Like, I'm probably going to make it, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 problems. But yeah, our test is Friday. So, look, you can close your mouth. It's like, you can't be that surprised. We've been moving pretty quickly all year. Like, yeah. You're really not surprised. You're just reacting because you're 7th grader.
So, like, when I said 7, 1 a.m., I'm just feeling like 7.
So how's your day going? My smartboard's mad at me.
Great. I'll do it.
This stopped working, and when it does, I just have to unplug it and re-plug it back in. And now we should be good. All right, so the original loan amount, guys, I got to start teaching you some vocab. The original loan amount that we borrow from the bank or whoever, we call this the principal. Now, this is weird for some people, but there are 2 spellings of the word principal. There's the spelling that is like my principles, like my morals. And then there's like Mr. Sherg, the principal, right? If in elementary school they ever told you that. The principal of the school is spelled P-A-L. Funny enough, because I was wrong for 2 years teaching this, so is the financial principal. So if you're talking about the initial amount borrowed.
Penelope Chalfant, please come to the office. Penelope Chalfant, please come to the office. Thank you.
Principal is defined as the amount at the start. Okay, so principal is our amount at the start. So when I borrowed money from Brendan, that was my $20 that I borrowed from Brendan. Now, FYI, I will give loans. Like, especially when we're traveling, a student last year on our New York trip lost his wallet on, I think, day 1. And I loaned him some money. And now, most of the trip, he actually just got money from his friends because everyone had enough money. But yeah, so I did that in Chicago, too. A student wanted to buy a Lego Sears Tower. And I was like, well, that's not a necessity. It's not food. We'll cover your food and just take care of that with your parents. But he took a loan from me, and I charged him 5 cents interest every day. So we paid you back.
That happened with me during dance because I had a dance competition in California and then I lost my wallet which had $300 in it.
Oh, jeez.
So then my dance teacher she gave me the money, but then I had to give her money each day that I took back.
Yep.
It was annoying.
So that whole money each day, let's dig into that. So our interest rate, please write this down, is 2%. Now, before we can do math with that, we got to convert that into something without the percent sign, so either the fraction or the decimal. Decimal is probably easiest to work with. Now be careful, it's not 0.2. It's 0.02. So we could go ahead and write that down. And then if we read the situation, how often are they charging us interest?
Every day.
Not every day.
Every other day.
Every week, actually. Every week. So they give us a week to pay them back, kind of like when I wait to post your grades. You get a week, that's kind of like your grace period. But at the end of that week, if you haven't paid back, interest hits. Guys, this is how credit cards work. So if we want to talk about after 1 week, well, after 1 week, they're going to owe 2% of what they took initially. So if we want to write after 1 week, work with your group for a moment to calculate what is 2% of our initial amount that we borrowed. Take like a minute or 2. Then what about after 3 weeks? If that interest hits 3 times. Doesn't matter. It's a week. So we're counting a week at a time. So we're saying, like, if we borrowed it on Wednesday, the next time we get to Wednesday, we owe interest. So it doesn't matter what day. Just calculate a week and then 3 weeks. And then, if it takes us forever to pay them back, what about after 8 weeks? So you and your partner, you want to work through 1 week, 3 weeks, and 8 weeks. And I will tell you, I'm not trying to have you do this 8 times. It was the hush, stop talking, you're giving away the thing.
Oh my god. Wait, how many weeks are we doing?
1, 3, and 8. Now, real quick, to help you set this up, I know you haven't had enough time. If we calculate just 2% of 825, well, 1%, we could think about being 825, like 8.25. So 2% is actually 1650. Hopefully that's what you got. But is that what we owe the PTSA? No, that's extra. How do I figure out what I owe them now, Ava?
You have to multiply 825 times how many weeks you're doing.
Ooh, now not yet, because we're still on 1 week. We haven't even figured out the 1 week. Like after 1 week, what do we owe? They're charging us an extra $16.50, but that's extra on Skylar?
825.
So this, please write this down. The word balance means everything. So when you go to the bank and you ask about your balance, that's either everything you owe or everything you have. And actually, I think I have a credit card bill here. I'll pull up my bill and show you. I'm going to Sharpie over my credit card number. But I'll show you what a credit card bill looks like. And they do the math on there. They say, if you don't pay us back, here's what you're going to owe. And ironically, I actually was trying to pay my credit card the other day and had a positive amount because I had taken something back. And it wouldn't let me pay it because I had nothing to pay. It was actually positive money. What? 841.50. So we added. So we took our 1650, add your 825, because balance is the total of everything. Now, I have a question though. Would there be a way to jump straight to 841.5 if I change something up in my problem? We were dealing with percent change yesterday, and we dealt with situations where we only looked at the change, and we also dealt with situations where we looked at the change and the initial amount. Is there a percent that we could multiply by here that would give us the change and the initial at the same time? So I'm going to let you think about that while I give you a couple more minutes. You want to calculate the interest after 3 weeks and then find that balance. And then do that again for 8 weeks and find that balance. So go for it.
How are you doing that, I do not. Tired of people saying that. Or 845.
So that we get time to independently practice, I'm going to show you guys a couple shortcuts now. I don't know what I got on my hands. What? There's something on. These were clean this morning. It had to be something at Phoenix. It's you guys. I work with 7th graders and y'all are gross. Hey, I say that with love. I'm pretty gross too. Go camping.
Not a
with me.
gross
Here's your
person.
personality, Mr.
What?
Riley.
I don't mean that. I mean that as a compliment. Like,
Oh,
you're just gross. Like, I like slime. I like grossness. I like creeping. I like love. I know. Do I actually have to do this multiplication again? The 825 times the 0.02? Skylar, what can I do instead? I can grab the interest amount from 1 week and just multiply it by 3 because we're just going 3 weeks. So if we either do this math or multiply this by 3, what do we get?
49. So that's what you've been trying to teach us. You just have to find like the 10 or the 1. Okay, it'll be a lot.
And there's a bunch of ways to do this though. So please realize if you do this a different way and get to the same place, that's fine. There are many ways to do this problem. So if that then is the interest now, how do I figure out the balance after 3 weeks? Well, again, put them together, right? My 825 and 49.50. What are we at now? 800 what? And then after after 8 weeks, we'll do that 1650, the interest from 1 week, times 8. What do we get for our interest amount? What is it? 132, like even? Wow. So guys, think about this. We've borrowed this money. We've kept it for 2 months, right? 8 weeks. We now owe them an extra $132 just because we wouldn't wait and we wanted the money now. So my balance after 8 weeks, well, add them. I get 957. Now here is where we will formalize the math that we're doing. You know how we had the dirt equation? Distance equals rate times time. We talked about the dirt equation. I like to nickname things, right? Easy to remember that way. I'm now going to give you the PERT equation. But be careful, it doesn't work the same as the dirt equation. The equation that we use for simple interest. You might want to write again that this is simple interest. Simple interest. We're going to use I to represent it because it's interest. It's easy. So the interest equals. Now, why do you think I call this the PERT equation? What letters do you think I might use? P, maybe an R, maybe a T. This equation is I equals P times R times T. So I gotta put this on the charger. Now, can anyone try to figure out what those letters represent here?
I think R stands for.
Wait, do you know what the I stands for? Oh yeah, I is easy. Please write this out with me, guys. Trust me, we need it written out at least once in our paper. Please don't make me walk around and check your papers. Interest equals. Ooh, not percent actually. Good guess though. Guys, this is where people goof it up. If P's not percent, please do not think that. Aiden? No, we've used this word today, Riley. What? No, Ava?
Price?
No. Principal. Right, that weird spelling. Principal. What was principal?
Amount of the start.
Amount at start, right? So that's our start amount. The beginning amount. The initial value. Riley, what do you think R is? Rate. And what do we think T is? Time. And time is in whatever units we're working in. So I would maybe put an alert here on your paper. I would put an alert here on your paper. The units for time will change depending on the problem. Some problems might use days, like when I borrowed $20 from Brendan. Some problems might use weeks, like we borrowed money from the PTA. And some problems, like my house that I have a loan from the bank, uses years.
Whoa.
It is annual interest. They're talking about time in years. Because guess what? My loan is for 30 years. That's a pretty long time. And I hope to pay off my house before that. But this PTSA loan, that's not 30 years, right? They want the money back kind of quickly. The bank with my house, they don't care how long it takes to pay it back. They actually want me to take longer. Why? They make more money. The longer I take to pay it back, the more money they make. All right, so now this is where you guys got to take over. Okay, so we have our equation. We know how to shortcut, right, principal rate time. I can now just plug that in right from the get-go and figure out my interest amount. Ooh, the one other formula you need, I like because it sounds cute, is the BIP formula. You ready for the BIP formula? It's really easy. Write down B. Balance equals?
Interest plus principal.
Absolutely, Ava. Interest plus principal. So to calculate everything we owe, we just add them, right? You take your principal amount, add it with the interest or the extra that you owe. Any questions on these two formulas, which I don't like just saying like, here's a formula, memorize it. That's why we solved that problem first to understand why. Any questions? That's called wait time, which I'm trying to do better with. I do not allow enough wait time for people to ask questions. So, now, and if I haven't told you guys this, to give you more about like who I am, my brother actually works a side job as a DJ. So sometimes you will find DJ Hubcap actually at a wedding DJing for people's first dance or father-daughter dance or whatever. So let's say we now go to hire a DJ. I do have a brother, 6 years older than me, works on cars much better than I do, drives a Porsche. He's sweet. He's much cooler than I am. Don't tell him I said that, though. Yeah, he drives a Porsche.
What if he watches your videos?
He works for Mac Tools. But he DJs on the side, right? So DJs, if they're good, can charge a lot. This DJ is partnered with a photographer, and they together, which is actually a really good idea. A lot of people want a DJ and a photographer. They'll need $1,000 to pay the DJ and the photographer. That's not crazy. Like if you're planning a wedding or something, that's actually kind of reasonable because photographers are expensive. Yeah. So the PTSA is like, all right, we'll loan you more money. So they loan us the $1,000 that we need. We're going to still pay them 2% weekly. And we want to calculate how much is this increasing each week. And then the PTSA changes their mind. So realize B is totally separate from A. When you solve A, I would draw a squiggly before you go to solve B. In B, they've actually decided, instead of charging us a specific interest, they want to charge us $18 because the whole interest thing and the pennies, and it's getting annoying charging us the percent rates. So if they decide to make our interest $18, they decide to make our interest $18, we want to calculate in this situation what is the new rate that they're charging us. Is it better or worse than what they had been charging us? So I'm going to give you guys probably like 5 minutes. Work through this. This is a totally separate loan. Okay, so forget about the $825 now. We're just working with the $1,000. Okay? I don't really want. What do you want?
I was wondering. You said better as in like.
Is it less percent? Because that'd be better for us. Or if it's higher percent, that's worse for us because we'd have to pay more. Riley?
With the percent form or the cash or like this?
We here know the cash. We got to figure out the rate. Now, on the flip side, in A, we're going to figure out the cash each week, right, for 2%. So we'll be able to compare A and B in 2 different ways. Just dive in. I'll be around the room. I'm I'm gonna grab my coffee. I'll be around. One week. What's your rate? No, an A. What's your rate?
An A.
2%. So we can figure out what is 2% of 1,000, and that's our weekly amount. That's how much we owe extra per week.
So it's 0.02.
Multiply, right? Of
1,000 times 0.02.
So who do you need? Do I need to be following the schedule at the same time?
No, you shouldn't be. George Minister should. Right where he's
He should be over there. Yeah. You want to do your principal amount times your rates. Because our time is just one. Principal amount times your rates.
Wait, what were we trying to find again?
You found it. We might as well come back together, especially since you just said that out loud.
What did I do?
So, well, that's exactly what I was about to ask you. We want to find 2%. So I'm going to change colors and do this one. We want to find 2% of our $1,000. So we do 0.02 times our 1,000. And Ava found each week we're going to owe them $20 extra. Extra. Get out a crisp $20 bill and give that to them every week, just for borrowing money. Now wait. Pause yourself. We right now could compare A to B. Which situation's better, A or B? B. Do you want to pay more?
Oh, no, never mind.
Unless you just got tons of money, and then I'll take some of it off your hands for you. Unless you have lots of money, $18 is better for us. Because, guys, this is what we owe them. We want to owe them less. So now if we go to calculate this, I'm actually going to flip my screens real quick. We know the interest, like dollar amount, right? Can anyone tell me what we're going to need to do here to be able to find the rate?
You have to do distance and time.
Ooh, now be careful, because we're using our interest formula now, not our distance formula.
Oh, wait, yes, sorry.
So I would always start with writing down the formula we're working with in the given situation. I would always start with writing down that formula. What do we know here? 18 is what? Well, don't give me that. 18's the interest, right? 18 goes in for the I. It's the interest each week. Do we know our principal amount? What is it? 1,000. We're trying to find the rate, so I'm actually going to bump that to the end. Do we know our time?
Maybe.
1 week. Does multiplying by 1 do anything? No. Ignore that. It doesn't matter. It could drop off for all we care. 1,000 times R equals 18. What do I need to do here to get the R by itself, Casey? How are the R and the 1,000 connected? How do we undo that? Absolutely. And when we do that division, R comes out to be
18. Oh, wait, what?
18 thousandths. 18 thousandths. Right? Exactly how this reads. 18 thousandths. So what's our percent here? What's our percent? Somebody already said it. What's our percent? 1.8. Right? We have to move this 2 places. We get 1.8%. Questions? This is nothing new, actually. Guys, this is the algebra that we've been like prepping up to all year long. All you have to do here, the only tricky part, is make sure you put things in the right place. Then you know how to do the algebra. You got this. As I'm looking at, like, what do we do leading up to the test, because we have like a couple weeks left, like, I'm looking at what do we need to practice and what do you guys already have, like, what do you already know? You're getting pretty good at this. In case you haven't noticed how much you've grown since the fall,
Oh, Lord,
you made huge strides in your math. So please, like, take some time to pat yourself on the back occasionally. You wouldn't have been able to do this back in the fall. And now we're just, like, plugging in, solving, asking what connects things, how do we undo stuff. You guys are doing awesome. All right, moving on. So now, if the PTSA puts it all together, they realize that 1825 is a bit too much. They don't have that much money. They went and looked at their budget and they're like, yeah, we just can't give you that much. So instead, they give us $12.50. Right? So it's still pretty good. We can fundraise the rest of the money or do something. We want to figure out what is the percent interest. Now, what else does this table tell us? We start with $12.50.
Every day that you
Not every day, careful.
every week. Oh, every week that you don't pay them back, you have to pay 18 on top of that 1,250.
So what is the 1875?
That's your interest rate. Wait, what?
Not our interest rate. No, you're close. You're right there. It's not our interest rate, Ava, but it is.
Is it the principal?
Nah, the principal's $12.50. Aiden? It's the interest amount, right? Like dollars. So be careful. Interest rate deals with the percentage, right? That like percent amount. This is dollars. This is interest amount. So guys, if we know the interest, you're doing the same thing we just did.
Oh, yeah.
Calculate the rate here. If this is our weekly interest amount, calculate the rate here. I'm going to flip my screens again. We're doing this again, but I'm going to tweak a couple of my numbers. Actually, I'm going to clone this page. I should probably hear more conversation. I don't know why when I look back I have so many eyes staring at me. You're working on your own right now. Know the interest amount. Problem tells us the principal.
Wait, can I say it?
Only if you can tell me what to do.
I can.
All right, so Ava, what plugs in for our principal amount?
12.50. Then you do 12.50.
Hold on. Is anyone confused, because this is new, right, us plugging these things in, on how we set this up? The table told us the weekly interest. The table also told us what we started at, but we don't know the rate. And since it was weekly interest, it's 1. Questions on the setup? Okay, Ava. Now, sorry, Riley, was that a question or do you want to move on? Who what? Question? Okay, what's up?
Why does it have to have friends?
It doesn't. I could just do 1250 dot for the multiplication. I ended up getting in this habit because my letters and my numbers looked similar. Like my handwriting was bad. So I started using parentheses to section out this number times this amount times, like, it's just another way to write multiplication. Good question, though. I appreciate that. What do we want to get rid of to get the r by itself? Joey? 250. 1250. Divide it by 1250. So definitely use a calculator for this. 18.75 divided by 1250.
0.015. Sorry, I forgot that you just have to do that. I'm sorry, I forgot.
So what is that in percent form? Guys, if you're in a calculator and you want to be really confident, what math do I do to get to my percent form? Times 100. So our percent form is 1.5%. Is this better or worse than what they had been charging us?
Better.
Better. It's a lower rate. Not only is 1875 pretty easy to work with, right? Because it's on the quarter, it's on 7.5, so it's not bad to work with. But they lowered our rate. So even though they didn't give us the whole amount, it's pretty great. Now on the flip side, here's the problem for you. Let's say you have a lot of money and you go to invest it in the bank. Interest rates right now are low. So they're good for people that want to borrow money to like buy a house, but they're bad for people with extra money that want to invest because you don't make very much money. Interest works both ways. It will charge you more when you borrow money, but if you put your money in the bank, your account has interest that you make money because the bank actually uses your money while it's there, and then you can get it back. But interest works both ways. It can be a benefit to you, and it can make you go bankrupt real fast. Seriously. The federal government, my dad works for a bank, so this is all real stuff. The federal government just a few years ago had to step in with credit card companies and make them include on their bills a section that says if you only pay the minimum, here's how long it will take you to pay this off. Let me see if I have this bill in here. I do. Let's look at a credit card bill. We should do these problems, but we'll do more tomorrow probably. I want you guys to understand what's happening here. Yeah. So you can get it into percent form.
Okay.
Guys, so this is why I still teach 7th grade. This is the math that you need to understand so you can have a successful life. So when you get a credit card bill, there's a ton of information on here. If this ever works, we might have to wait till tomorrow if my presenter camera won't work. Winter clearance. Oh, come on. Come on, computer. Like 2 months, really. If you want an easy answer, in 2 months you'll be on summer vacation.
No, actually, a month.
All right. Well, that is taking forever to load. Question for you. We talked last week about how easy retail math can be. I'm just waiting because I didn't go to school for 4.5 years to be talked over. How easy 10%. Don't be upset. I'm just waiting. 10%. Right, 1/10. We just bumped that decimal over. If we look at this problem here, it starts by asking a 1% question. Is there an easy way to find 1% like there was an easy way to find 10%? Question is how? If 10%, a tenth, bumps us over 1 decimal spot, how do you think we could find 100th of a value? Bump it how far, Ethan? Twice. So, if you still have your notes out, which hopefully you do, because I still have a couple minutes left. If we're looking for 1% of a value, we just grab the decimal, bump it over 2 spots, and guys, that will be $9.55. So the interest rates we've been talking about haven't been very big, right? Like 1%, 2%, things like that. If I take what's called a cash advance, which means I don't have the money, physical money, and I want to borrow it, I can. I can take my credit card to the bank, say, look, I have a credit card. Can I have some money, please? And I can. I don't know if you guys can even see this, if it's close enough or not. What's my interest rate if I do that cash advance? That's not dollars, that's percent. 26%. Guys, 26%? That's insane. If I borrow $100, what's my interest amount gonna be if it's 26%? $26. Guys, that's a fourth of what I borrowed. If I borrow 1,000, I owe them an extra $260 every time this happens. And some of these cards are annual, some of them are monthly. So this APR stands for annual percent rate. So what that would mean is if I kept it for a year, it would accrue that much. But they don't wait for a year, they calculate it every day. So they don't do 26% every day, but they break it out to what the percent would be for each day, and they recalculate that every day. On the back of your credit card bill, there's a ton of fine print of stuff that you won't understand if you don't learn the math right now. Like, this is not calculus. This is not your advanced high school math. This is just simple math. Interest charges, interest rates, all that. Like, so if you guys want to talk more about this stuff, I know you don't care now, and it's having a hard time focusing, but you will. You totally eventually will. And then this is what a credit card bill also kind of looks like. All the different stuff that you've done. So I actually didn't, so they will let me borrow $12,000 worth of money. Actually $11,700, sorry, not $12,000. This CR means I actually have a credit because I bought some stuff, but then I took it back and they refund it onto your credit card. So now, unless I spend more money, there's actual just money sitting there. Like, I have extra money that I don't even have to pay them. They'll tell you a due date and a minimum payment. I don't have a minimum payment because I don't actually owe anything. But then, look at how much if you pay late. A $38 fee if you just pay your bill late. You miss it by a day, you owe $38 extra. So a bunch of stuff you guys need to be aware about as you start opening bank accounts and things like that. But we're over time already. So sorry guys, we got to get to language arts.
Taxes are adult homework.
Taxes are adult homework.
I don't like that.